30 fun facts about Canada. Think you know everything about the Great White North? Don't be so sure. Did you know there's a place in Canada where the rules of gravity don't really apply? Let's dive into today's video and uncover 30 fun facts about the land of ice hockey, maple syrup, and the friendliest people on Earth. 30. Canada is a monarchy. That's right, a lot of people don't know this, but Canada is actually part of the British Commonwealth, which means that the head of state in the country is His Majesty King Charles III. As a former colony of the British Empire, Canada had to fight long and hard to become a self-governing country in 1867. But it looks like the country's royal ties are still very much in place. 29. 2 official languages. The history of Canada runs a little deeper than most people might think. Back when the country was a colony, Britain wasn't the only colonial heavyweight on the block. France also had a major stake in North America and owned a huge chunk of it. And while the French dominion gradually faded away, their cultural influence was too much to be ignored, which is why the people of Canada proudly speak both English and French as their primary languages. Pretty cool, right? 28. Second largest country in the world. This is another one of those facts that people don't really know, because when you think of big countries, you might think of the USA or China, but don't be fooled, because Canada beats them all. The country stretches out over a whopping 9.98 million kilometers, giving it some serious geographical bragging rights. So while Russia still takes the crown as the biggest country in the world, Canada is a close second. 27. Longest coastline in the world. Being one of the biggest countries in the world does come with its perks. If you want to take a look at the world's longest coastline, pack your bags and head north, because Canada's coastline stretches out over 125,000 miles with endless views of the ocean and islands. Sounds like a dream, doesn't it? 26. Longest international border. Here's a really crazy fact. Canada only shares its border with the USA. That's right, Canada doesn't share borders with any other country other than America. Imagine having just one neighbor, and a big one at that. Given the size of both nations, their shared border isn't just a picket line. It's the world's longest international border, spanning an impressive 5,525 miles. 25. The origin of the word Canada. For those of you who don't know, Canada has always been home to several Indigenous populations, which is also how the country got its name. The name Canada has its roots in the word Kanata, from the St. Lawrence Iroquoians, meaning settlement or village. Tragically, the St. Lawrence Iroquoians vanished in the 16th century amidst conflicts with the Mohawk, who aimed to control trade with the Europeans, but their impact on the country has been undeniable. 24. Canada is no stranger to colonization. Before the British and French came to Canada, the Vikings were there first. Around the year 1000 AD, a Viking named Leif Erikson, whose grandfather had been sent away to Iceland for a misunderstanding that ended in some fatalities, landed in what's now called Newfoundland. They called it Vinland because of all the grapevines they found there. The Vikings and their stories have gone down in history as famous folk tales, and of course you can't deny the impact they had on the local Inuit people. 23. The Italian takeover. After the Viking situation, an Italian was the next to stake a claim on Canada, but he claimed that he did it for the English. Hired by King Henry VII of England, the Italian explorer John Cabot, also known as Giovanni Caboto, sailed to Canada's Atlantic coast in 1497, saying it was England's now. Later, his son Sebastian kept exploring North America, but when he came back to England, there was a new king, Henry VIII, who wasn't too keen on continuing the mission, so that was the end of that expedition. 22. The Beaver Wars. While Canadians are generally pretty peaceful people, the Beaver War has gone down in history as one of the most brutal showdowns to have taken place on the land. And no, I'm not talking about a bunch of beavers fighting it out for some food. Back in the 17th century, the Iroquoians aimed to control the beaver fur business and teamed up with England. Their competitors? Other tribes joined forces with France. What followed was one of North America's fiercest battles, and after all that, It ended without a clear winner. 21. Canada's national animal. Now that you know how important the beavers have been in Canadian history because of their fur, they also became the national animal of the country in 1975. And while the poor animals were almost hunted to extinction with all the fur trappers, traders, and battles over being the fur king of the region, hey, at least they're on the Canadian nickel. 20. The land of fame. Canada hasn't just given the world the best maple syrup you will ever taste. The country is also home to some seriously talented people. I'm talking Justin Bieber, Keanu Reeves, Jim Carrey, Celine Dion, Michael Bublé, Drake. The list just goes on and on. Canada's influence on pop culture really is remarkable. 19. The coldest temperature recorded. Here's a chilly tidbit for you. Canada's coldest recorded temperature dives down to a bone-chilling -63 degrees Celsius. Think your winter sweater could handle that? This frosty record was set in Snag, Yukon, where thermometers felt the icy grip of -63 degrees Celsius. And for those seeking consistently cold climates, Eureka Nunavut takes the crown, maintaining a frosty average of -19.7 degrees Celsius throughout the year. Talk about Canada keeping things cool. 18. The walled city. This is where Canada stands out from the rest of the world. It's home to the only walled city in North America, situated north of Mexico. Quebec City proudly showcases its fortified walls, constructed in the 17th century. When the British took over the city, they didn't tear them down. Instead, they enhanced and fortified them even more. Fast forward to today, and these walls aren't just historical remnants. They're a UNESCO World Heritage Site, preserved for their cultural and historical significance as barriers against invaders that protected the residents during the war. 17. Loonies and toonies. No, I'm not talking about the cartoon. I'm talking about Canada's currency. The loonie is a $1 Canadian coin. The name doesn't mean what you think. One side of the coin proudly showcases a loon, a bird that's kind of like a duck, or a waterfowl for the bird enthusiasts. Then comes the toonie. It's a $2 coin, and the name? Well, think of it as a two-knee. Clever, right? 16. A different Thanksgiving. If you're thinking of moving to Canada, be prepared to completely change the way you celebrate Thanksgiving. While our neighbors down south in the USA are giving thanks in late November, Canadians are already done with their gratitude-filled feasts by mid-October. And if you're expecting the same dinner menu in both countries, think again. Make room for some butter tarts, Nanaimo bars, and pea soup, because Canada likes to put its own spin on Thanksgiving. 15. Highest immigration rates. Did you know that Canada is one of the world's top destinations for newcomers? That's right, Canada boasts one of the highest immigration rates globally. Why, you ask? It's all about family, economy, and growth. From 1990 to 2008 alone, Canada added a whopping 5 million people to its roster. But here's a lesser-known fact. Every year, about 10% of the world's resettled refugees find a new home in Canada. It's not called the world's nicest country for nothing, right? 14. Immigrant cultures. With all those immigrants settling in the country, Canada is a beautiful melting pot of all kinds of cultures and languages, way beyond just English and French. More than 1.2 million folks chat in various Chinese dialects, while Punjabi conversations are heard among about 500,000 people. Dive deeper and you'll find German, Italian, Tagalog, Spanish, and Arabic speakers, each community numbering in the hundreds of thousands. Not to mention the 11 different Indigenous language groups that are further broken down into 65 actual languages. That's what you call true diversity. 13. Languages of the Northwest. The Northwest Territories in Canada might just hold the global trophy for embracing diversity in speech. With 11 official languages, it could be challenging even for the most avid polyglots. Ready for the roster? Gwich'in, Chipewyan Dene, Clicho, Inuktitut, Cree, North Slavey, South Slavey, Inuvialuktun, and of course English and French. So much to choose from. 12. Lakes make up half the country. If you remove the lakes, Canada would actually be the 4th largest country in the world, not second like I just talked about. Simple fact, lakes are kind of Canada's thing. It boasts the largest share of the world's fresh water. A big chunk of Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie, and Ontario are happily situated in Canadian territory. And let's not leave out Alberta. It's sprinkled with gorgeous lakes all over. So if you fancy a lakeside view, you know where to head. 11. Mac and cheese. Move over, America, because Canadians love mac and cheese more than anyone else in the world. Canadians have a secret love affair with mac and cheese, or as they affectionately call it, Kraft Dinner. All thanks to the iconic boxed brand. Well, a whopping 7 million boxes fly off the shelves globally each year. Canadians proudly claim 1.7 million of those. Now, you might assume the mac and cheese crown would go to the US, but here's a twist. Canadians devour about 55% more of the stuff than their American buddies. 10. National sport. You hear lacrosse and think, is that a French sport? But surprise, surprise, it's not. This dynamic game of sticks and baskets traces its origins to the First Nations of Canada way back in the 1600s. Fast forward a few centuries and Canada's English-speaking middle class got hooked. In 1994, the love for the sport was set in stone when lacrosse was declared Canada's national sport. That's just for the summer though, because in winter, ice hockey becomes Canada's national sport. 9. Independence from the British. It might surprise you, but Canada was still technically under Britain's thumb until 1982. Yep, that's right. The British Parliament even had a say in Canada's constitution. But in 1982, the Canadians were ready to self-govern. And just like that, Canada gained full control of its own affairs. 8. The History of Canada Day. In 1867, the British North America Act was passed, turning Canada into a federal dominion. This meant that Canada gained a greater degree of independence from Britain than before. While it wasn't full independence, it was a significant move towards it. Every July 1st, Canadians celebrate this milestone with Canada Day, marking the occasion with parades, fireworks, and proudly donning red and white. 7. Longest highways in the world. Stretching from the Atlantic coast to the Pacific, the Trans-Canada Highway isn't just your regular road. Spanning a whopping 4,860 miles, it's a dream route for road trippers. And for those keeping score, it proudly stands as the 4th longest highway in the world. So if you're up for a coast-to-coast adventure, this highway's got you covered. 6. The meaning of the maple leaf. Ever wondered about the origin of the iconic maple leaf representing Canada? Dive into history and you'll find that this emblem dates back to the 18th century and was initially a symbol for French Canadians. The first mayor of Montreal even declared in 1834 that the maple leaf was the king of our forests and represented the Canadian people. And get this, each leaf color once stood for a different region, gold for Ontario and green for Quebec. Though it was originally etched on coins, today it's the star of the Canadian flag. 5. Biggest underground shopping complex. Canada sure knows how to shop. Think the biggest underground shopping maze is in Japan or China. Think again. Toronto, Canada holds that title with its sprawling underground wonder called Path, spanning an impressive 4 million square feet. It's not just a shopping haven, but also connects metro stations and various office buildings. More than just tunnels, it boasts elevated walkways and modern pathways. And the best part? It was designed to shield you from Canada's notorious cold, so you can shop without the shivers. 4. Grand hotels. A lot of Canadian architecture has a distinct style that's called chateauesque. It's a nod to the French Renaissance, and Canada has wholly embraced it, especially in its majestic Grand Railway hotels. Built during the train travel boom of the 20th century, these hotels are a sight to behold. From the picturesque Banff Springs and the regal Royal York in Toronto to the stunning Hotel Vancouver, they are masterpieces in stone. Next time you're in Canada, don't just stay in the hotels. Marvel at them. 3. Oldest pool of water. In Timmins, Ontario, you can find the world's oldest pool of water, 2 miles underground in a mine no less. And when we say old, we mean ancient. Scientists pegged its age at a whopping 2 billion years in 2016. Can you believe that? 2. Winnie the Pooh is Canadian. The beloved Winnie the Pooh didn't get his name from honey-filled escapades. Instead, it's a Canadian connection. A black bear named Winnie, short for Winnipeg, resided in the London Zoo. A young Christopher Robin was so smitten with Winnie that he named his own teddy after her. His father, A. Milne, then named his iconic character after this very teddy. But here's another fact. The real Winnie's journey to the London Zoo began when a soldier bought the cub for $20 in Canada on his way back to England post-World War I. How cool is that? 1. The full force of Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls is a massive set of waterfalls straddling the border between the United States and Canada. While both countries offer stunning views and their own unique attractions, the Horseshoe Falls on the Canadian side is the most impressive. This curved fall captures about 90% of the Niagara River's water flow and is the most powerful part of the falls. In contrast, the US side has the American Falls and the smaller Bridal Veil Falls, which together receive the remaining 10% of the river's flow. Regardless of which side you're on, Niagara Falls is always a sight to see. So which one of these fun facts did you have no idea about? Let us know in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one. See you next time.